Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably already know that I'm in the middle of my deep dive into the Lenormand system. The system that was created as the Game of Hope in Germany, but then when they were exporting it to France, they changed the name to Lenormand, adding the name of Madame Lenormand, a very famous psychic, cartomancer, diviner in France. And the name hit, the deck landed, and it took off, and now there are Lenormand decks sold all around the globe. There are Lenormand decks, there are a plethora of Lenormand decks even here in South Korea. Just saying. So, very popular deck. And I'm in the second half of my dive into the Lenormand system, and it's been a really informative exploration of the system, and I see how it is modifying, it is expanding the way I read with Tarot and other oracle systems as well. I've noticed the way I read cards has shifted and changed, and I think it's beneficial for me and hopefully for the people I read for, and hopefully following along with me on this journey is helpful for you as well. Yeah? So, thank you for joining me on this journey. And friends, I've got a spread already laid out for us. I ask the same question every week. How can we live life more intentionally in the coming week? That's what this entire channel is dedicated to, frankly. Living life intentionally using tarot, oracle, and other cartomantic systems to explore that question, right? So I've got a spread already laid out for us, but before I get to that spread, I'd like to thank you. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey. I'd like to thank you for doing those things that you do, for hitting the thumbs up button, for subscribing to the channel. All of those things help bring the channel in front of the eyes of people who might be looking for us. And so then they can come join us and join our community, and we grow and are blessed by that expansion. So thank you for doing those things. And thank you for those of you who comment in the comment section. Those comments also help me because I love hearing from you, but they also help us grow as a community. Yeah, YouTube acknowledges those things as engagement. So more engagement, more potential people finding us. So thank you. Okay, and also if you want a private reading from me, my online tarot shop and the web address for that online tarot shop and the QR code for that same tarot shop will be at the end of this video. Yeah, so stay tuned. So friends, we've got, like I said, a spread already laid out, and I will show you the spread. I will tell you about the cards, the deck that I'm using for this spread, and just in case you're new here, I'll tell you about the spread generally, and then I will show you the spread again, and we will start reading it together in several different ways. Are you all ready? Well, friends, here is this week's spread. Isn't this a beautiful, beautiful Lenormand deck? Don't you love these cards? The images. The art is by Robert M. Place. Yeah? The title of the deck is the ukiyo-e tarot. Not tarot. There is a ukiyo-e tarot, but this is the ukiyo-e Lenormand. The ukiyo-e tarot is by a completely different artist. And I'm still thinking about getting it, but we're looking at Lenormand today. A beautiful deck by Robert M. Place. The cards are on the big side. Yeah, just saying. For me, for example, a grand tableau, this would be a challenge for me to lay out on a table. My tables are not that big, yeah? But it's a beautiful deck. And so for 3 cards, 7 cards, 9 cards like this, even a larger spread, maybe a 13 card, I could work with this deck. 36 on one table would be challenging. But like I said, beautiful deck. This is what the backs of the deck look like, the backs of the cards. Yeah, it's a Japanese symbol that well, actually, it's a sign, originally a Chinese character. In my study tradition, this would be a Sino-Korean character that is un in Korean. I forget the pronunciation in Japanese, but it's un in Korean, and it means destiny or fortune. Yeah, so great character to choose for the back of a fortune-telling deck, right? Lenormand is a fortune-telling deck at its base and from its tradition. So beautiful cards. Beautiful, beautiful art. I love this deck. It's gilt. There's gold gilding on the edges. Chef's kiss. And I will put a link in the description box below if you want to go get this deck yourself. Now, just in case you are new here, let me tell you what you just saw. It is a 9-card spread. That's my favorite name because it really just tells you what it is. It's also a picture frame spread, a box spread. There are several ways of describing this, but I like calling it just a plain old 9-card spread because that's what it is. And we're going to read this spread in several different ways, right? We're going to read it in the columns. We're going to read it in rows. We're going to read the corners, and we're going to read the diamond shape. We're going to perhaps even look at mirroring. We're going to look at knighting, perhaps. There are many different ways to read this spread, and we're going to read most, if not all of them. Probably not all of them, at least most of them. Yeah? So if you're ready to dive into this spread with me, stay tuned. Let me show you the spread once more so you get a refresher, and then we'll start reading it together. Here it is. Friends, you just saw the spread again. And you saw from the upper left-hand corner, we had the rider, the garden, and the ring. And then right below that, we had the fish, the crossroads, and the coffin again. We had the coffin last week. And then below that, we had the tree, the bouquet, and the moon. Now, the titles on some of these cards are a little bit different, right? So instead of the rider in the upper left-hand corner, it's called the messenger in this deck. Same card, right? The path in the center had another title added to it, which is Jizo. The fish had, would be over here, the fish had Ebisu added in front of it, right? The coffin had Emao, right? The moon had Kanon, and we'll get to that information in when we look at the card specifically. So Robert M. Place added some Japanese traditions. I don't want to say mythology because, for example, Kanon and Emao, for some might be mythological, for some might be real live spirit beings that are here to help us, right? So, I'm not going to say mythology. If they're the spirit of the tradition is added to this deck, which is lovely. I love it. Do you know that I lived in Japan for a year when I was a child? I lived in Japan for a year when I was in 4th grade, and so I have a little bit of memory of Japan from in my personal experience. I also went back to visit when I was an adult. So I have a little bit of a connection with this, not as strong as I would with a Korean deck, for example, because I've lived here for most of my adult life now. But I do have a little bit of a connection to this deck, which is makes it a little special for me as well. You know what I mean? So, first, I like to look at the overall feel of the spread first. So one way that I do that is by looking at positivity or negativity of the cards together. Okay, so we started off, the rider is positive, the garden is neutral, the ring is positive. We've got two positives there. Yeah, we've got the fish, positive, neutral, the crossroads being neutral, the coffin being neutral, negative, so the fish and the coffin kind of cancel each other out. Yeah. Then we had the tree is positive, neutral, the bouquet is positive, and the moon is positive, neutral. So we've got 3 positive, we've got 2 positive neutrals. So this spread skews very positive. Yeah, even when we look at the playing card inserts, we can see we've got 3 hearts, right? And we have only one club, so the hearts far outweigh the clubs. We have 1, 2, 3 diamonds and 2 spades, so the diamonds outweigh the spades. So we've got a very warm, fuzzy spread in front of us, even though there is a card like the coffin there. You know what I'm saying? So, where do we begin? We begin, and that's a song just went through my mind. That's what made me pause there for a moment. Do I sing it or do I not sing it? Yeah. Where shall we begin to tell the story of a love that, yeah, you know, that song from Love Story? Okay, so we start at the center. That's where we begin. We begin with Jizo, the path. Right? The path is the center. That central card is the significator of this spread. It gives us this first message, or the primary message. The topic, if you will. And the topic with the crossroads, or the path in this deck, what are crossroads? Yeah, it's called the path, but it should be the crossroads. What are crossroads? They're places where we are required to make a choice, right? You know, remember that poem by Robert Frost about the path not taken? We come to a crossroads and we have to go one way or the other because there's no direct road in front of us, right? We got to go either right or left. So it's about choices. It's about, well, let me show you the card. It's a beautiful card. It's about choices. It's about making decisions. It could be an actual crossroads. Yeah, if this were a spread about, I don't know, something that's going to be happening for us in the future or the near future, and we're looking for a place and this card showed up, then this could actually be an actual physical crossroad. But we're looking mostly at decisions and choices. And when. It's a decision that needs to be made now. One interesting thing about the crossroads is that in the traditional game of Hope, the crossroads card is linked to the garden card. So this is card number 22, and the garden card is number 20. So that's interesting because the garden card is right above the crossroads card, right? So we've got a strong association between those two cards. So what would happen? The garden would point us towards what is the start of the situation, and the crossroads would show us the difficult decision to be made from that situation. Yeah? But crossroads are also read directionally. And I think this card points very clearly to the directions, right? One road goes this way, one road goes that way. So this is a really easy directional card to read in this deck. Yeah, very easy. Wonderful card. So it's all about choices. It's all about making decisions. And the statue. The statue here, just in case you're curious, that is Jizo, which is a bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is the kind of like Guan or in Korean tradition, Guan Yin. In the Korean tradition, it's Guan or Guan Se Bosar. The Jizo is a bodhisattva, a spirit that has decided not to cross over to nirvana, but rather stays back to help humanity. Yeah, and Jizo is what kind of bodhisattva? It's the bodhisattva that warns small animals away from the tread of human feet and of horses and carts going by so they don't get squished. Yeah, this is the bodhisattva of giving answers and answering wishes. Yeah, protecting children and travelers. So we've got travelers protected, children protected, little animals protected, also wishes granted and answers given. Wonderful bodhisattva to have here on the crossroads card. So this spread, I should say, really is about our choices. And we'll be working that through as we read the deck, as we read the spread. But card that most strongly modifies our topic card in the center is the card in the upper left-hand corner, which was the rider, or in this deck, the messenger, right? So what is a messenger? What is a rider? It's somebody who comes in quickly with news or messages, right? In the United States context, you could also think of it as the Pony Express before we had telegrams and telegraphs. At the time of the creation of this deck, we didn't have email, right? We didn't have the internet. We didn't have social networking. We didn't even have a strong telegraph system that crossed the entire world. We didn't have telephones. So we were still using people on horses to move light messages, not heavy packages, but light messages quickly across large expanses of land. So that is this rider, the one who carries messages quickly, movement, quicker than normal mail. For example, the letter card would move more slowly than the messenger card or the rider card. The rider card also indicates things going smoothly in some traditions of reading Lenormand. Or it could be someone or something suddenly entering our lives. It could be a youthful, probably male person, an athletic male person perhaps, someone who is dynamic, outgoing, perhaps communicative. In some traditions, the rider is the gay man in the deck. So, if you've got anyone like that in your life, good for you. You can add that person into this reading because you might be called to make a choice about that person, right? Or that person might be asking you to make choices about something. So we've got messages coming in, or a person coming in suddenly asking us to make choices or decisions. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to read this card first in terms of past, present, future. That is the columns. And so the column on the left gives us the past, the center gives us the present, the column on the right gives us the future. In the past, we start off with the rider. So this person entering our lives probably entered our lives already, has already entered our lives. Yeah? And this person is modified by the fish card. What are fish? Fish are, especially at the time of the creation of this deck, are a sign of abundance. They are free food. Yeah, you go out, you send your ship out into the ocean, you drop your net, you pick up your net, free food. Yeah, or you go to a river and there are fish flowing down the river and you either use a net or a fishing line and you get free food. You don't have to plant a seed, you don't have to plant a fish in the ground and wait 9 months for it to grow up into a fish tree, right? It's an immediate source of nourishment, of income, of abundance, especially at the time of the creation of this deck. It's a protein that you could eat any time of the year, right? Remember, this deck was created in the time of very strong Christianity and Catholicism in Europe. And this deck is from Germany, which had already gone through some struggles between Christianity and Catholicism, Protestantism and Catholicism. But then this deck also moved over to France, which is a very, very Roman Catholic country, especially at this time. So we still got the idea of no meat Fridays or fasting during periods before Easter and even periods before Christmas. And so at those times, fish was acceptable. It's an acceptable protein, even when other things are not permitted, right? So the fish is abundance. It's something that takes care of us at times when we are in dire straits even. So the fish is a card for money, for resources and abundance. It's also water. Yeah, the fish flow through water. So it's a card of soul and emotion a little bit, especially when it's near the moon card. We do have a moon card here. And the moon card does knight to the fish card. So 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, yes. So we might get to that later on. So what is that saying? The rider is one of abundance and resources and has some money maybe even. Yeah? Our rider is not a poor person coming into our life. Our rider is one of abundance. The news is one related to our prosperity and our resources. Or if it's a person coming in, that person's got some cash, maybe, or at least resources coming into our lives. And what kind of resources? These resources lead to the tree. And what is the tree? The tree is a plant with deep roots. It grows slowly. It provides shade. Yeah, in many cultures, it's a symbol of families and traditions. Some places in the world designate or have a tree that they remind the entire world has been there for 400 years, for 500 years, right? There's a long tradition of trees being long-lived and the bearers of tradition of the culture, right? We can also get food from trees, fruit trees, nut trees. They provide sustenance. They provide health. They're an indication of the health of the environment as well. The trees get sick and they start dying, you know your environment is not so healthy. So, the tree is a card for life, for roots and traditions, for ancestry. Most people read the tree in terms of health, the health of the individual. For me, I do not read it this way, but many, many people do read the tree in a negative way, that it's ill health. For me, not so much. Not unless there's a card around it that says like the cutting off of health, like with the scythe or with the coffin, right? Would indicate ending of health, of healthy times, or the cutting off of health, or maybe the mice next to it might be showing us our health being eaten away by something like a disease of some sort, right? Or perhaps poor lifestyles. But here we've got a healthy tree here, so it's good health. It's also the combination of body, mind, spirit, because a tree has 3 levels, right? There are the leaves on the top, there's the trunk in the center, and the roots below. So we have perhaps body, mind, and spirit. Spirit maybe being the leaves, the trunk being the mind, and the roots being the body, perhaps 3 levels of existence. We've got heaven, earth, and hell even perhaps here. But think of something small that grows. Now, a large oak tree grows from a very small acorn, right? So, we've got our abundance, our resources that lead to our growth, our development over time. Not a spontaneous transformation, not a sudden, amazing, wow, look at that growth. It's not a bamboo tree, right? Bamboo trees, do you know, they grow very quickly. Yeah, they'll grow slow. Okay, so what happens is they're growing underneath the ground, and there's a bit above ground that grows very slowly, very slowly, very slowly, and then it suddenly, like in the matter of a day or two, it goes from this big to like 6 feet tall. You know, it suddenly shoots up. Okay, 6 feet might be an exaggeration. Maybe more like, 6 feet tall, 12 feet tall. Yeah? So it's not that. It's a slow growing thing. So our resources are growing slowly. Our wealth is growing slowly. Our money is growing slowly. It's money that grows slowly, right? Either brought in by the messenger or messages relating to that. That's what we're coming out of. That's in the recent past. So for the present, we start off with the garden card. What is the garden card? It's a beautiful garden here. And here we see a Japanese garden, and Japanese gardens like to use the iris. So that's why Robert M. Place put the iris here. And the garden is a form of high art. Have you ever seen the Buddhist gardens where the sand is raked into patterns, and God help you if you step on that, if you walk on that. It's high art. The garden is high art. The bonsai, the trees are sculpted, the plants are sculpted and placed very carefully, very minimalist, right? And patterns are drawn into the sand that forms the covering for the garden. So there's beauty here. But the garden in Western traditions, and remember, we read Lenormand, even this Lenormand, according to the system of the cards, not by the image on the cards, right? So we're not going to read this garden card differently from a different garden card from a different deck, the way we might read tarot cards, where this tarot card has a Japanese feel and we might be thinking of Japanese traditions, whereas this card has a very structured French garden, so it looks more rigid, it looks more controlled, and so we'll read this card controlled and we'll read this card minimal. We don't do that in Lenormand. This is the garden, right? So gardens, when this deck was created, were places for people to gather, for society to gather, for people to come together and talk, to celebrate, to discuss, to share communal life. Yeah? So the garden card is a card for social activities, for community. Many people in public, a place for networking. So networking is included here. Social climbing, this is where the people go to meet those who are in fashion and who are the noteworthy, and they go to perhaps find a way to raise their own fortunes. Yeah? It's also a place where we work with other people. So this card could be working with other people, letting other people help us. It could be that networking. It could be social networking. It could be our community. It could be business even, like the company. Not the business of selling things or buying things, but the people who work together in a community, in a company. Cultivating social relations of beauty and friendship could be indicated here as well. So in the present, we are called to work with and be with and interact with other people, and we want to do that in a beautiful way, with a mind of fellowship, of communality. Communality, is that a correct word? If it's a correct word, let me know in the comments below. Communality, that's the one I'm looking for. Communality. We want to work together. Yeah, and how do we do that? Well, remember, we do that by making the choice. Now we make the choice, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but as we were working with these other people, this working with other people is going to be the work of making choices, making decisions, not putting them off either, making the decisions here in the present moment. And what are we making those decisions about? We've got more beauty. We've got the bouquet. Bouquet is what? The bouquet. At the time of the publication of the Lenormand deck and the Game of Hope, bouquets were things that we gave to each other as thank yous, as signs of appreciation, as congratulations for perhaps winning a trophy, for having met your fiancé, perhaps. It's a way for us to make an entrance into somebody's life, yeah? Someone coming to court another person would bring, well, a man coming to court a woman at that time would bring a bouquet of flowers as an entree, as a here, receive this gift of beauty and allow me closer to you, right? Of course, we're talking about the bourgeois or the lower higher classes, not necessarily royalty, but those with financial means, from the bourgeois up, right? So bouquets, they're also the objects of beauty. I don't know if you know this, but they've done research where they've given flowers or bunches of flowers to people and measured their reaction. And it seems like almost 100% of the time, when people receive flowers, they smile. Yeah, so there's the gift of happiness, the gift of joy here as well. So what is the bouquet card traditionally? The bouquet card is good fortune, happiness, pleasure, and gifts. Yeah, it's also charm and refinement. So these aren't wildflowers out in the wild. These are flowers which have been gathered and arranged into an artistically pleasing form of some sort. So there's that refinement there, creativity, beauty, and grace. It also could be an indication of an invitation. Yeah, gifts of flowers can also come with invitations to do something, going out to be with friends, going out to a party, maybe going out to the movies. In present times, maybe just hanging out with friends. Now, the Queen of Spades here, the Queen of Spades here could be a very charming woman, a woman of diplomacy and style, of good opinions, of matching, being able to interact with people and bring other people together. So if you've got somebody like that in your life, especially if you've got that kind of woman in your business life or in your social community, it could be indicating her. Yeah, but our choices in our community, whether it's business or it's social, that is calling us to make choices, remember, could be bringing about good fortune, good luck, or it could be about that. It could be about our fortunes. It could be making choices about invitations. It could be making choices about spending time with people. So our community could be asking us to make decisions about spending time with them, about invitations. So this might be a week of getting invitations from people. It may be. Or it may be inviting people. We might be asking, our community may be asking us to invite them in, if that makes sense. So we go into the future. What are we moving into? We're moving into a future of the ring. What is a ring? We think of the ring as a sign of marriage, right? An indication of wedlock. It's also a circle, right? So there's no beginning and there's no end. We have that idea of eternity there, cycles that go on and on and on and on, right? Think of the wheel of life. This beautiful card. I love the fish on this card. The fish reminding us of the fish card, which we had in the column to the left, right? Column to the left, right? So what is this card? This is a card of long agreements, of contracts even. If this card is near the letter card, next to the letter card, it could be a contract, a written document of agreement, right? It could be relationships. It could be cyclical things. So we need to look around the cards that flank it to see what relationships are there. Is there a partner here? And the relationship that we have here is in this coffin card. What kind of relationship is it? What kind of contract is it? What kind of promise is it? Well, it's a promise of the coffin. What are coffins? They are places where we put bodies so that we hide them away so we don't have to look at them. Now, it's not only because of the way that they change over time. It's also for health reasons, right? If the body is left as it is above ground, then disease can break out, right? So for public safety, we put the body either underground or we burn it. Or sometimes we set it out to the ocean as well. But most common ways are either burning or burying. And in the society, in the culture that this deck was originally created for, Europe, the bodies are buried. Yeah, especially at the time of the creation of this deck. What do we call it? Cremation was a no-no. Why? Because we were expecting these bodies to rise up at the last judgment, right? Christ comes back, the angels blow their horns, and all of the dead good Christians rise up. And if the body had been cremated, people thought that the body could not rise up. Right? So cremation was a no-no. Burying people, especially close to holy ground, was a yes, yes. So the coffin is the place where we put these bodies that we hope that they will rise up from. Right? So what is the coffin card? It's ending, it's finishing, it's losing things, but it could also be a place from which we can rise up, from which we can resurrect. Which is interesting because in last week's spread, we got that sense of a relationship renewed, right? And this is a positive spread. So instead of pointing towards mourning and emptiness, or cancellation, or ill health and death, we can also get the idea of something being boxed up, something that is secure. Because the coffin could also actually be a literal box. If you're looking for something and you're trying to find a place and the coffin comes up, it's probably not going to be a coffin, but a box. So the coffin actually represents a box. So, it could, who knows, if maybe you'll get engaged. Maybe there'll be a ring coming in a box for you in the near future. If so, good on you. But I have this sense from, especially coming from last week's spread, we've got the idea of a contract, of a promise that is resurrecting, maybe, being renewed, coming up from this coffin. And we remember, well, we'll read direction later on in this video. So we're not going to look at the directionality of the coffin quite yet. Let's move down into the moon card, which, I didn't mention this. Emma-o. Emma-o is the god of the underworld. That's the guy sitting behind the coffin, just so you know. Now, Japanese, Emma-o, god of the underworld. They're taking care of the body. Yeah? And then we have Guan Yin here on the moon card. And Guan Yin in Korean is Guan or Guan Se Bosar. It's a bodhisattva of mercy on the moon card. Interesting. So, the moon, what is that? It's the light that reflects the sun, right? It gives us soft light into the night. But it changes. It's changeable. There are cycles. So we've got cycles with the moon. The moon draws the water of the planet, right? It moves the tides. So we've got that idea of moving water or emotions. So there's the emotional movement here with the moon card. Now it's the light of the night. Mostly it's the light of the night. So we've got dreams indicated here as well. It rises. We think of the moon as rising, so recognition and reputation are included here. Success. For me, I've mentioned this several times. When I learned the moon card is the card of our heart business. Yeah, our side gig, our side hustle that we do, not necessarily for the money, but because we love it, because we love doing it. So the ring and the coffin, what is that telling us? We've got this contract, that a promise that maybe has been boxed up or maybe renewed in the area of perhaps the thing that we love to do, the thing that we do because we love it, or it's a promise that's boxed up that feeds us emotionally. Now that feeds our emotions. But if you're like me and you have a side business, for me, that is this, right? Tarot. It's my heart business. It's what I do, not for money, but because I love doing it. So for me, that it could be that. It could be this contract, this promise, this relationship that is boxed up, is placed in the box, or maybe revived, resurrected in the area of my heart business. And maybe in the area of my reputation, and my success is rising up because of that. Yeah? And maybe for you as well. Because remember, I'm reading through me for you. I'm reading through me for you. So those are the past, present, future, right? We started off with the news coming in, messages coming in, or a person coming in related to our resources. And they're resources that are growing slowly, but steadily. Maybe associated with tradition, but they are growing slowly. They started off small and they got big. The present are interactions with other people, our society, our community is calling for choices, decisions in the here, in the now, in the present. And those are related to perhaps beauty and pleasure, but also maybe invitations. We might be asked to make a decision about invitations, or make the decision to invite others into a community in the present. And that leads us to a future, right? Past, present, future, into a future of agreements, contracts perhaps, but agreements, promises that are boxed up, and might be a renewal of those things in the area of either our emotions, maybe our intuition, or our reputation and our success rising up. Does that make sense? So that's a pretty good progression, I think. Now we're going to look at what's going on now in our mental space, in our physical space, and in our below the surface space. Kind of like the tree, right? We start off in our mental space at the top with the writer, the garden, and the ring, right? The writer, the garden, the ring. So we've got this messenger or messages. So what are we thinking about? We're thinking about messengers or messengers or messages that are social, communal. They might be messages about networking, or our ability to rise socially. And rise socially in the area of promises, making agreements. Yeah, I keep saying contracts. There's no letter here for contracts, but making agreements, promises. Strong promises. So that's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about messages. So if you might be getting you might be thinking about an invitation right now. And your invitation, the choice about that invitation might be important. What's going on in the world around us, we begin with our abundance, but really, we really begin with this card in the center, with this path card, right? What flanks the path card? What is our choice? The choice is on one side, the fish, so our abundance, our money, our resources, we can choose that, or we can choose the coffin, right? And we can choose to end something now. Now, the choice right now seems to be between abundance and the ending of something. Now, the first thought might be ending something. That's bad. Why would I want to end something? Well, the ending to something could bring something better. The ending to something, we might not be asked to end something that we love, but rather something we don't like. Something that's difficult, something that's been bothering us. So we can choose between abundance or ending something, maybe even something that we don't like. So we could stop this thing that we don't like, which sounds good, or abundance, which is an odd choice, right? It's a mind-bending choice. So I've got to choose one of those two. So what's going on below the surface? Below the surface, we have slow, steady, healthful growth in well-being, right? Maybe our roots, our traditions are growing deeper, but there's a slow, steady, healthful growth here. In what? In beauty, in charm, in pleasures, in our fortunes. Yeah, happiness and fortunes are growing slowly. That's what's happening under the surface, whether we're aware of it or not. And that leads us to perhaps recognition, perhaps more acceptance, perhaps more success. So we've got, below the surface, we've got some really powerful stuff going on. In our headspace, we're thinking about the promises we have with our community and the messages that we're getting perhaps into that community. But somehow in the real world around us, we're called to make this choice that doesn't seem very comfortable or even sensible, right? So let me show you the spread once more. We're going to read the corners, we're going to read the diamond, and we'll probably do a little bit of knighting. Yeah. Let's see if we can get a more precise read on this spread from doing some of those things. Okay? Let's get some more evidence. Are you all ready? Here's the spread once more. Friends, we are back. So let's look at the corners first, right? The corners around the choice that we are called to make. Remember, in order for us to live our lives intentionally, we're called to make choices all the time. Yes? So what are those? We talked about the choices between abundance and the ending of things, right? Is there a time when we would want to end things more than we would be interested in our abundance and our resources? That's difficult for me to wrap my head around right now, but maybe that is possible or meaningful to you. The first set of corners we have is the rider and the moon, right? Is this the correct order? It should be like this, the rider and the moon in this order, I think. Yeah, so the rider is our main card and it's modified by the moon. What does that mean? So we're getting news perhaps about our reputations. We're getting news about our success. I guess that's a good thing. I hope that comes for me, and I hope definitely it comes for you. So news about our success, about our rising reputations, perhaps for me in my heart business, which is like this, that would be wonderful. And then that leads to what? That leads to, this is the direction we want to read them in, yeah? The ring should be on the top and the tree below. So our relationships, the promises we've made grow. They develop. They send down roots and they become more powerful, stronger, more enduring, more lasting, more healthy. So that sounds like a really good thing, right? Yeah? We've got our promises growing. They start off as a small thing, but they develop, they grow, they become more powerful, more well. We're getting messages about our success. That sounds all sounds wonderful. Now let's look at the diamonds, yeah? Diamonds, we start off with the first diamond of the garden and the fish. Right? The garden and the fish. So our community is abundant. Our community is of resources, and those resources flow. That's not a community of stagnant resources, of people who keep their money in safes and their resources locked down, but rather one of flowing abundance, of networking, maybe abundant networking as well. Not networking necessarily of money, but that the networking is flowing like water. Maybe. Actually, that makes more sense, doesn't it? The network, the community flows like water. There is abundance of networking, an abundance of interaction. That sounds good, unless you're a very stubborn introvert where abundant interaction is terrifying for you. I'm sorry if I've triggered you about that, but there is an abundance of interaction in our social communities, apparently. And in that process, maybe some of the beauty, some of the refinement, some of the pleasures that we've experienced there might be a beautiful, there might be a beautiful, pleasurable ending to something. There might be an ending. Okay, so that would increase the desirability of something ending, right? If that ending is pleasurable, if that ending is desirable, if it's refined and it's an ending of good fortune, not an ending of fortunate, I should say, an ending that brings good fortune. So which would you choose right now? Right now, as we're thinking about it, which would you choose? Would you choose abundance of resources and cash, or would you choose an ending not to, but of good fortune? So a very fortunate ending to something, an ending of beauty, to a beautiful ending, a pleasurable ending. Which would you choose? Is there anything in your life right now that you can think of that you say, God, I wish this would end and it would make my life more beautiful, more pleasurable, more fortunate? It's not coming to my head right now, but I'm beginning to be able to imagine what that could look like. Can you? Does that make sense to you? Okay, so let's look at knighting. let's take a look at what this abundance could be and what this ending could be. So the ending that we saw was maybe beautiful, fortunate, graceful, something that brings good luck. That card, the coffin card, knights to the tree and the messenger. Now, the coffin knights to this card, so it's if you've been feeling ill health, there's an ending here, a messenger. Okay, so there is a possibility for you that you will get the message of someone having passed away, not necessarily in your immediate socials, in your immediate, like your family, your best friend, but someone who has passed away from some health issue. That brings some, and could that be what brings some good luck or fortune or something good into your life? It's possible. That's not the direction that's not a direction that we would be reading for the general public. Yeah? That's not the direction I would go for a general reading here. So, what is this telling us? The rider and the tree together. Okay, maybe okay, so we're choosing this ending, right? This ending could be could bring messages of health. Messages of well-being. Now, the ending could be a message of well-being coming into us, if that makes sense. That's a very unsatisfying reading of those three cards to me. But this choice, the knighting for this choice. Now remember, just in case you are new here, knighting, what does that mean? It means like a knight on a chessboard moves. A knight can do what? It can move one space forward or back or to the side. It can move one space and then over two in either direction, right? Or it can move two spaces and then over one. Now, for this kind of a spread, we're not doing a whole grand tableau, so there's only really one way for any of these cards to knight, and that is going to be over one and down two. Oh, okay, so if they're a card in the center, it can only go over one and down two. If it's one of the corner cards, they can only go over two and down. Corner cards can knight in more ways than that. But, for example, the fish card can only knight in one direction, and that would be to the ring and the moon. So our abundance card knights to these two cards, which in combination give us what? They're both round, right? So we've got that ring, the moon, roundness of cycles and continuous cycles of rising reputation, right? And maybe even promises woven into that. But cycles of rising reputation are linked to our abundance. So our money, our resources, our abundance are linked to continued cycles of rising reputation. That sounds like a really good choice to make. If it were me, that's the direction I'd be going in, right? If we've got this choice into either ending or cycles, or abundance, I'm going to choose abundance, flow of abundance, cycles of rising reputation, rising success, cycles of promises, and what kind of what kind of promise is this? That's curious. What cards does the ring knight to? The ring will knight to... Okay, it's interesting. So, the corner card, for example, the ring, which for you would be up here, yeah? We could go 1, 2, and down 1 to the... No, I'm sorry. 1, 2, and then down 1 to the fish, and then 1, 2, and then over 1 to the bouquet, or we could go over 1 and down 1, 2 to the bouquet, and then down 1 and over 2 to the fish. So either way, it makes no difference. Again, the ring will only knight to the fish and the bouquet. So what kind of a promise is it that we're talking about here? What kind of cycle? The cycle is good, fortunate resources and abundance, happy money, pleasurable abundance, beautiful resources, very, very fortunate things, yeah? Our promise here is of beautiful, charming, creative, graceful, fortunate abundance and money and resources. That's a wonderful ring to have there. It's a very prosperous ring that we're moving towards. So, this spread seems to be asking us to make choices. The spread is asking us to make choices. Choices are important when we live our life intentionally. Now, when we live our lives intentionally, we're making choices every moment of every day. We like this, we don't like that. We like this, we emotionally, we give that choice power, and that choice vibrationally, imaginally, copies itself and places itself again on our powerful current of intention. So, for example, very, very silly, example. I like chocolate ice cream. I do not like strawberry ice cream. So I go into the ice cream shop and I see chocolate ice cream and I see strawberry ice cream. Which one am I going to give my attention to? I could choose that too, right? I give the choice to give my attention to chocolate ice cream, and I'm happy with that choice, and that choice makes my heart sing, and then vibrationally, more chocolate ice cream is placed on my current of intention, and as I open to the power of intention, I flow towards more chocolate ice cream. If I give my attention to that thing I don't like, to strawberry ice cream, and I think that they should erase strawberry ice cream from the face of the planet. I wish that it would just be taken away from the ice cream shop, and I don't ever want to see strawberry ice cream again. What am I doing? I'm giving very powerful negative energy to that strawberry ice cream, but I'm giving it energy, and that thing is copied and placed on my path of intention as well. So as I flow with my intention, probably more slowly because that negative emotion has caused me to draw in and limit my access to the power of intention quite a bit. So I'm moving slowly, but I'm probably going to be moving in the direction of more strawberry ice cream because I've given that so much energy and so much attention at that time. Right? The choices that we make and our choices to place our attention on either things we like and love or things that we don't like or don't love create more of those things in our future until we finally learn to give our attention to the things that we love. Including the people that we love. Choices are very important to living an intentional life. And where we place our attention, the choices that we make from that positive, loving, open, creative, excited choice creates more of those things in our future. And when we're asked to give our attention to two choices that seem very confusing, perhaps, at least confusing to me, between abundance and the ending of something, but that ending seems like it's a good ending, or do I choose abundance? Which do I choose? Which would you choose? Which seems best for you? The ending of something that, when it does end, gives more beauty and good fortune to you, or straight on abundance, resources, which are beautiful, which are flowing, which are linked to our rise of recognition, perhaps of success, and our cycles thereof. Which would you choose? I'd love to hear from you. Actually, I would love to hear from you. Which would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. Which seems the most enticing for you at this point in your life, right here, right now? Which seems the best choice for you? And that's the title of this video, I'm sure. I thought about it from the beginning, and I've maintained that idea that we're going to call this video Choices. Which would you choose? Let me know. And why, if you feel comfortable telling me that. So friends, we got this spread under wraps. And thank you. Thank you for joining me on this journey, this perhaps rough ride through this actually very positive spread, right? In just a second, the QR code and the address for my online tarot shop will appear for you. It's a very simple web address. It's my name, DerekJohnThomas.com. Yeah, go over there and ask for a reading, and I will get you a reading, or you could purchase a reading for a friend or a family member or anyone you want, and we'll get you a reading or them a reading. Now, I've got a very broad selection of offerings there. Take a look. And friends, thank you. And now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.